aspect of KYC. So in this lecture we will see some operational aspect of KYC in detail. So let's see what are the topic we are going to discuss. The first thing is we will discuss KYC. Then after we will discuss customer acceptance policy. The third is customer identification procedure. The fourth is diligence procedure. The fifth is alternate mode of CDD procedure. CDD, CDD means customer due diligence. The sixth is wire transfer. We will discuss about what is wire transfer basically. Then after we will discuss other operation and regulations. Okay, other operations and regulation we will discuss. And then after we will discuss CKYCR, that means Central KYC Record Registry. Then after we will discuss monitoring of transaction, and finally transaction and suspicious transaction. So let's begin with the first one. Let's begin with the introduction. So friends, what have been explained here, that RBI, Reserve Bank of India, has established specific guidelines, okay, and rules for bank and other entities that fall under its regulatory purview. So these guidelines are known as KYC Direction 2016. So RBI has so the KYC means Know Your Customer Direction 2016. So the purpose of these guidelines is to ensure that bank and regulated entities have proper procedure in place to identify and verify the identity of the customer. So what is the main point? To verify the identity of customer. This is the main point. Okay, this is the purpose. So let's say you want to open a bank account in India. The bank you approach will ask you to provide certain documents such as your identification proof, such as passport or driver license, address proof such as utility bill or rental agreement, and possibly other detail like your occupation and source of income. So these requirements are the part of KYC norms set up by the RBI to ensure that bank has adequate information about its customer. The second point is that in the case there is a variance. So sometimes there may be difference in the KYC and AML. Sometimes there is a difference between KYC and AML. Okay, so see, sometimes what happen that there may be difference in the KYC and AML standards. So this KYC and AML standards are set up by the RBI. So sometimes the difference arises, and the regulator of the country where bank branch or subsidiary is located. So what happen in such case? In such case, the branch or subsidiary of the bank is obligated to follow the stricter regulation. You can see it is written that the branch or regulator is obligated to follow the stringent, stricter regulation. Okay, whether it's RBI guideline of the host country regulation, right? So let me give you an example to make it more clear this concept. So let's see. So suppose an Indian bank has a branch in United. Suppose SBI. SBI has a branch in United States. Okay. So RBI has its own KYC and AML regulation. RBI has KYC and AML regulation. So so in that case, and the US has its own set of rules in this area as well. So if the US regulation are more stringent than RBI regulation, US regulation are more stringent than RBI regulation. So the Indian bank branch in the US, that SBI bank branch in the US, must adhere to the stricter US practices, right? So this ensures that, so when it comes to the KYC and AML practices, if the US regulation are more stringent than the RBI guideline, then so the Indian bank branch, that is SBI bank branch in US, must adhere to the stricter US regulation. This ensures that branch operate in compliance with the higher standard set by the host country regulator. So hopefully you have understood the meaning of this thing. Okay, so now let's move to the next part, that is KYC norms. Okay, so KYC norms, let's first discuss customer acceptance policy. So what are the conditions that we have to follow, okay, in order to accept the customer? Let's discuss each and everything in detail. So friends, the first point that we have to discuss is customer acceptance. Regarding customer acceptance policy is regarding Benami name. Okay, what is the meaning of Benami? Benami means fictitious name. Okay, so let me discuss in detail. So first, what is point to explain? No account is opened in anonymous or fictitious Benami name. What does it mean? The customer acceptance policy should state that bank or regulated entities should not open account for individual who provide false or anonymous identity. So this means that customer must provide their genuine information. Customer must provide their genuine and verifiable information while opening an account. They cannot use fake name or entities. So let me give an example. When someone try to open a bank account using a fake name, like suppose the fake name is John Doe, okay, this is the fake name. So, or suppose a non-existent identity, so in that case the bank should reject the application as per the customer acceptance policy. So as per the CAP, the bank should reject the application. This policy ensures that account are open only for individual with valid and traceable identities. Hopefully you have understood. The next point, let's discuss. Next point is no account is open where appropriate customer. Let's discuss. What does it mean? The customer acceptance policy, the CAP, requires bank and regulator entities to conduct customer due diligence. You know what is the meaning of customer due diligence? CDD. You see, customer due diligence. That's short. In short, it is called CDD. So, why CDD measure is carried out? To verify the identity and the information provided by the customer. Okay, CDD is carried out to verify the identity and the information provided by the customer. So if a customer does not cooperate, or the document or information provided by them are unreliable, the bank should not open an account. So let me give you an example. Suppose that there is a customer, right? So suppose this is a customer and he refuses to provide the necessary identification document, or provide suspicious and inconsistent information. So in such case, the bank should decline to open an account. So in such case, the bank should decline to open an account, okay, as per the customer acceptance policy. This policy ensures that proper check and verification are carried out before establishing a banking relationship. The third point let's discuss. The third point is that the customer acceptance policy mandates that no transaction or account based relationship should be established without following the proper CDD procedure, right? We have already discussed it. So let me give an example. Suppose there is a customer, right? Suppose this is the customer, okay, he want to perform a large financial transaction or wishes to open an investment account. The bank must first verify the customer identity. So this customer identity is very important, right? So and bank should assess the legitimacy of the transaction or relationship. This adherence to the CDD procedure ensures that bank only engage in transaction and relationship that are compliant and legitimate. Hopefully you have understood its meaning. Okay, now let's move to the point number D. So point number D says that the customer accept should provide clear guidelines. Okay, so this should provide a clear guidelines on situations where a customer is allowed to act on the behalf of another person or entity. This ensures that bank and regulated entity have a transparent framework for understanding when and how customer can act like a representative. So let me give you an example to make it more clear. So let's suppose there is a customer, okay, and what happened? He want to open a joint account. He want to open a joint account, okay, where they have the authority. This customer have the he want to open a joint account, right? So in this case, he has the authority to make financial decision on the behalf of another individual, such as elderly parent. Suppose he has an elderly parent, so he want to make decision on the behalf of this elderly parent. So the customer acceptance policy should specify the condition and procedures for allowing such representation, ensuring that it is done within the defined circumstance and legal boundaries. Okay, so now let's move to the next slide. Hopefully you have understood what are the prerequisite for CDD for CAP. Okay, now let's see the next point. The next point that we have is that the customer acceptance policy should include measures to verify that customer identity do not match with any individual or entity listed in the sanction list. You know, there is a sanction list provided by the RBI, so it should not be listed in the sanction list provided by the RBI. So what is sanction list? This sanction list contains name of individuals or entities involved in illegal and prohibited activities, and the bank need to ensure that they do not establish relationship with individual or entities. So let me give you an example to make it more clear. So suppose a customer applied to open a bank account, right? The bank should cross check the customer identity against the RBI sanction list. Okay, if the customer name or detail match with any entry on the list, the bank should not proceed with opening the account. This help prevent the bank from facilitating transaction with sanctioned individual or entities. So the sanction list is a must, right? To check that sanction list, to check that whether we are not opening account of an individual whose name is the Samsung lead, is a very important part of the customer acceptance policy. Okay, so hopefully you are understanding what are the measures prerequisite for this customer acceptance policy. Now let's move to the next point. The next point that we have is that customer acceptance policy should include provision to verify the permanent account number, that is PAN number. Okay, to verify the PAN number provided by the customer. PAN is a unique identification number which is issued by the Indian Income Tax Department, and verifying it help ensures that accuracy of the customer tax related information. So let us give you an example. So when a customer provide their PAN number during the account opening process, the bank should validate by verifying the detail with the issuing authority, which is the Indian Income Tax Department. So this verification confirms the authenticity of the PAN and helps the bank maintain accurate record and comply with the regulatory requirement. The next point that we have is to verify the digital signature. So the customer acceptance policy should outline the procedure for verifying the digital signature of electronic document which is provided by the customer. So verifying the digital signature ensures that the authenticity and integrity of the electronically submitted document. So let's take an example. Suppose a customer submit electronically signed document such as a scanned copy. Okay, what he has done? He has submitted a scanned copy, okay, of identification proofs or signed application form. The bank should have a process in place to verify the digital signature. This verification confirms that the document has not been tampered with and provide assurance of their authenticity. The next point that we have is the customer acceptance policy should specify the essential information that needs to be collected from the customer for the purpose of KYC. So let's take an example. The bank KYC policy may require customer to provide their full name. Okay, customer should provide their full name. Okay, the customer should provide their date of birth. The customer should provide their occupation. Okay, the customer should provide their source of income and supporting document such as identification proof and address proof. By specifying these mandatory information in the KYC policy, the bank ensures that all customers provide consistent and necessary detail for compliance and risk management purpose. Now let's see the last point that we have, that the customer acceptance policy states that when there are multiple individuals involved in a joint account, you know about joint account. So in a joint account, suppose multiple individuals are involved, the CDD, that is customer due diligence, should apply to all the account holder. This ensures that identity and the information of each joint account holder are verified. So suppose two individuals are there or two or more individuals are there, okay, and they want to open a joint bank account. Okay, so in this case, the bank should conduct CDD process for each account holder separately. This ensures verifying their identity, collecting necessary documents, and assigning their suitability for account opening. So these are very important part of CDD that we have discussed till now. Now let's move to the CIP. Let's move to the second part of this session, that is CIP. So friends, what is CIP? CIP stands for Customer Acceptance Procedure. Okay, so let's discuss in detail what is the Customer Identification Procedure. We have discussed CAP, that is Customer Acceptance Policy. So friends, if you want such type of videos, such type of lectures for all the units, so you need to WhatsApp me on this number. Okay, the number is this number. So I will provide you the detail how to access such videos. If you want such explanation, I'm providing each and every statement explanation using example, so that the concept become clear to you, and in the examination you can just answer the question based on your understanding. So if you want such type of lecture, please WhatsApp me on this number. I will provide you the detail how to access this. So now let's discuss the customer identification procedure. So the first point is that while opening an account, okay, so CIP, let's discuss CIP. Okay, so customer identification is required to be done in following cases. What are the cases? The first is that the customer identification process required bank and regulated entities to verify the identity of the customer while opening a new account. So suppose there is a person, okay, who visit a customer visit a bank to open a saving account. The bank staff will ask for identification document such as passport, driver license, Aadhaar card in order to verify the customer identity. The CIP ensures that bank has proper record of the customer identity. Okay, so bank has a proper record of the customer identity and can establish banking relation with them. The second point is undertaking international transfer for non-account holder. So what does it mean? The CIP applies when a non-account holder want to conduct an international transfer of fund. Okay, so the customer identification procedure applies when a non-account holder wants to conduct an international transfer of fund. In such case, the bank or regulated entity is required to verify the identity of the customer before processing the transaction. So let me give an example. Suppose there is a person who does not have a bank account. Okay, this is a person who does not have a bank account. He want to send money abroad. Okay, he want to send money abroad, so through a money transfer, through the empty service. Okay, so the service provider will ask for identification document and conduct identity verification as the part of CIP. This ensures that transaction is legitimate and customer identity is known before facilitating the international transfer. The third point is the doubt arise. So the CIP comes into play when there is a doubt or suspicion about the authenticity of an existing customer or adequacy correctness of the information provided by the customer. So what happens in such cases? In such cases, the bank or regulated entity is required to re-verify the customer identity to address any concern. So let me give an example to make it more clear. So suppose a bank receive information that raises doubt about the identity of the customer or suggests that information provided by the customer may not be accurate. In such case, bank will initiate review. In such case, what bank will do? The bank will initiate the review of the customer identification document. Okay, contact the customer for additional verification or take other appropriate measure to address the doubt. Now the last point is the CIP applies when a bank or regulated entity sell a product, including third party product. Okay, or facilitate the loading or reloading of prepaid or travel card for value exceeding 50,000. So suppose a customer want to purchase an insurance policy from a bank or load a prepaid card with a value of more than 50,000. Okay, so suppose there is a case if customer want to purchase an insurance policy from the bank or load a prepaid card with value of more than 50,000, the bank will verify the customer identity as a part of CIP. The bank will verify the customer identity as a part of CIP. This help ensure that transaction is legitimate, the customer identity is known, and the potential risks are mitigated. So hopefully you have understood this particular slide. Now let's move to the next slide that we have. Let's continue our discussion on CIP. So friends, the CDD, that is customer due diligence procedure, requires bank and regulated entities to conduct thorough check and verification when a walk-in customer conduct a transaction or series of connected transaction with cumulative value exceeding how much? 50,000. So if the cumulative value exceeds 50,000, the CDD require bank and regulated entities to conduct thorough checking. So suppose a customer walk into a bank branch and want to deposit or withdraw an amount exceeding rupees 50,000 or conduct multiple transactions, so that when combined exceed the threshold, the bank will initiate the CDD procedure. What bank will do? Bank will initiate the CDD procedure. The bank will verify the customer identity, assess the purpose of the transaction, and follow the necessary step to comply with the regulatory requirement and mitigate the potential risk. So that's the point. Now let's see the next point that we have. So friends, again reiterating that if you need such type of videos for your upcoming examination of JAIIB, okay, so PBB, so you need to WhatsApp me on the number shown on the screen. I will provide you the detail how to access these videos, these explanatory videos where I am explaining each and every concept using an example, so that the concept become ingrained in your mind and you can easily answer this question when asked. Now let's see the next point. The CDD procedure applies when there is a suspicion or doubt. Okay. Okay, so we have discussed the doubt part, and the last point that we have is okay, when there is a doubt. Okay, so the CDD procedure apply when there is a suspicion or doubt that the customer, whether an account based customer or walk-in customer, there are two type of customer. There is account based customer or there is a walk-in customer. So is deliberately dividing transaction into a smaller amount to avoid crossing the rupees 50,000 threshold. It happens that let me give an example. So this is known as structuring or smurfing. So please understand what is the meaning of this structuring. What is the meaning of this smurfing? So please understand. I am explaining it. So it is a red flag or potential money laundering or illegal activities. Suppose a customer frequently conduct a transaction below 50,000 limit. Suppose he conduct a transaction of 20,000. Okay, and especially if it appears to be a deliberate pattern, the bank may suspect structuring. So what bank may suspect? He may such as structuring. In such case, the bank will initiate the CRD procedure to gather additional information, assess the customer transaction and behavior, and determine if there are any illicit intention behind the structuring. Now let's discuss the customer due diligence procedure. Also, customer due diligence include customer identification. So the customer due diligence of the so let me discuss depending on the risk part. Okay, so when a customer apply to open an account, the CRD procedure will require the bank to collect and verify the customer identification document such as passport, driver license, Aadhaar card. So the bank will also gather additional information about the customer such as their occupation, source of income, nature of their business activity. So by conducting customer identification as a part of CRD procedure, the bank establishes a record. Now let's move to the next slide. Let's move to the next slide and discuss the risk portion that we have regarding this CDD procedure. Okay, so first of all, the first part is financial status. Okay, so as a part of CDD procedure, bank and regulated entities, what they do, they collect the information about the customer financial status. Okay, customer financial status, customer business activity and other relevant detail to create a comprehensive profile. So when a customer apply for loan or investment account, the bank will request information about the customer income, asset, liability and other financial detail. Now let's discuss for individual. What are the documents that the bank need to collect for individual? So we will discuss each and every detail in part. Okay, so for individual, let's discuss what are the documents that they require. So friends, you can see for individual, the CRD procedure applied to individual who are involved in certain type of relationship or role with a bank or regulated entity. So the specific document required for a customer identification vary depending on individual responsibility and involvement. So suppose an individual want to open a saving account. Okay, suppose an individual want to open a saving account. So the bank will collect the necessary identification document or Aadhaar card, okay, or passport. So if the individual is a beneficiary owner, or of a legal entity, in legal entity customer, suppose a company, you know, a legal entity customer. Who is legal entity customer? So a company is a legal entity customer. So suppose that person is a beneficial owner of a legal entity customer, the bank will request document that establish the individual ownership and control over entity. So in that case, what bank will do? Bank will request document that establish the individual ownership and control over the entity. So suppose the next part is, if the individual is an authorized signatory of a legal entity customer like a company, so the bank will ask for document that prove that individual authority to sign on the behalf of the entity. So obviously bank will ask to give some documents that prove the individual authority to sign on the behalf of the entity, such as board resolution or power of attorney document. Okay, so what are the document bank may ask for? So bank may ask for board resolution or power of attorney document. So if the individual is a power of attorney holder, last point you can see, if the individual is a power of attorney holder, okay, so in that case, the bank will require the relevant power of attorney document that grants them the authority to act on the behalf of the entity. So these are the points regarding the individual. The next point is documents requirement. The first is Aadhaar number. So if the customer expect to receive any benefit or subsidies from the central government, they are required to provide their Aadhaar number. This is particularly relevant when these benefit or subsidies are to be received in bank account linked to their Aadhaar. So suppose an individual is eligible for government welfare scheme where the benefits are directly credited to their bank account. To receive these benefits, the individual must provide their Aadhaar number. So this is the first document which is required, that is the Aadhaar number. Let's discuss the other document which are required. The second document is so Aadhaar number we have discussed. So while conducting a customer due diligence or for individual, the required document may include the customer Aadhaar number if they are receiving any benefit or subsidies from central government. So the next point is, if the individual do not have Aadhaar number, suppose an individual has not Aadhaar number, so what in that case, and is not receiving any government subsidy, so they can provide a certified copy of OVD. You know what is the meaning of OVD? That is an officially valid document. So in that case, they can provide a certified copy of an OVD such as passport or driving license, okay, or as a proof of identity. Alternatively, they can submit an equivalent electronic document of any OVD. So the next point is, as a part of customer identification procedure, individual may need to provide one recent photograph. Okay, so one recent photograph is to be provided by the individual as the part of this customer identification procedure. So if the customer is unable to submit an electronic document equivalent to the photograph, a physical photograph must be provided. Okay, so a physical photograph is prerequisite. If he is not, if he is unable to provide any electronic photo, so physical photo must be provided. So for example, while opening a bank account, an individual, they need to provide a recent photograph. The photograph help verify the customer identity and is included in their account record. If the customer cannot submit an equivalent electronic document, they must provide a physical photograph. The third is PAN or Form 60. So what is this PAN and Form 60? PAN or Form 60. So friends, try to understand. Individuals are required to provide their permanent account number issued by the income tax department. If they do not have PAN, they can submit Form number 60 as defined in the Income Tax Rule 1962. So while opening a bank account, an individual must provide the PAN or Form 60. The PAN is a unique identification number assigned by the assigned to individual for income tax purpose. If the individual do not have PAN, Form 60 is a declaration for the individual who do not have PAN. This helps ensure compliance with tax regulation and enable bank to link the customer account to their tax profile. The next point is, such are the documents, right? So depending on the nature of the customer business and their financial status, additional document may be required to complete the customer due diligence. So suppose an individual is a business owner, or self-employed. Okay, so suppose an individual is a business owner or he is a self-employed, so they may need to provide additional document related to their businesses, such as business registration certificate, licenses, financial statement. These documents help the bank understand the nature of the customer business activity and assess their financial status. So hopefully you have understood this part. Now let's move to the next slide that we have. The next slide says that when conducting customer due diligence for individual, they can provide their Aadhaar number if they are receiving any benefits or subsidies from the central government. Alternatively, they can provide a OVD. Okay, we have discussed it. OVD, right? Recent photograph we have discussed. So change in the name. So where there has been a change in the name, an OVD with the previous name along with the marriage certificate or the gazetted notification indicating the change in name can be applied. So rest portion we will discuss in the next part. So friends, if you want such type of videos for your upcoming JAIIB examination, WhatsApp me on this number. This is the free portion. The next portion is paid one, which is available to the paid member only. Thank you.